Hi, everyone. Welcome to the weekly quad planning. We have a crowded agenda, so we can just jump right in. On the first an announcement, an order of business that content from 2021 was moved to a separate document. So if you're ever looking back and saying, what did we discuss? You can just click on that 21 agenda. And moving on to checking out commitments from the current milestone. Are there any issues that need to be reprioritized? And I linked 3 issues there that are still open. I think, Sophia, 2 of those are yours. And I'm not sure if those would need to move back to 14.8 or not.
Actually, they should be either today or tomorrow be merged there. We're in maintainers review. So yeah, should be making it.
Okay, great. And the second on the list, there's a confidential container registry issue. And Jaime, if you are seeing this, could you let us know if that issue also needs to move back? Okay, and I wanted to also ask if there are any questions about the 14.8 milestone plan. If there are any open questions, I think we asked them all the issue.
I haven't pointed in the issue, but basically from what I see in the content of the milestone, I did add some quality elements there, but they were not addressing directly the issues of work, because I just really didn't realize how could we work together in the milestone with quality, perhaps because the focus wasn't really exactly. But today we had an incident where I was working with David, and David actually made a really good suggestion. So I'll probably reprioritize the milestone and include that issue and that suggestion in 14.8. So just to make a note there.
Okay, so we would probably just swap it out for 1. Okay, yeah, that sounds good. Just you could tag me in the planning issue once you add it, make the change. That'd be great. And Steve or David, think any questions on that?
No, there is only the issue that is going to slip out of 14.7 on package cleanups.
Okay.
And the security fix. But basically the work is already done. The MRs for the cleanup have been merged today. So we should be good to go. And yeah, basically for both, well, one of them is already merged. For the security fix, the bulk of the work is already done. So we should have a small or no impact on the current capacity.
That's great. So does that mean that the create the background job for package files cleanup is closed?
It has been merged today. So I will update it to the verification phase, and once it's verified, I'm going to close it. Yeah.
I wonder if I should change the milestone back to 14.7.
No, for now it's not currently included, because the RC commit has been created yesterday my time, and this has been merged today my time.
Okay.
It's this situation where, yeah, it's this situation where perhaps if they continue to include more commits from master until tomorrow, we might get included, but for now it's not.
Okay, thanks for that explanation. Okay, I have added a bunch of strategy updates. So yeah, I'll just start to work through those if there's no other questions. So we're launching the new container. Well, we're in the process of launching the new container registry, and during the kickoff video, I unknowingly called it the next generation of the GitLab container registry. And I just wanted to get your opinion as developers. Does that make your ears hurt if you hear someone say that, or I kind of feel like it's true. There's so many new features that are going to be coming along with it, but I didn't know if that would be something where it'd be like a buzzword that would annoy you as engineers. It's okay. And
Probably would sound a bit weird if it was next generation sounds good.
Yeah, I would just say, make it so.
okay, thanks. Okay, just checking. So I've been mentioning in the planning issues and to anybody that would listen that our focus for the next quarter is really on the registry migration, storage visibility, storage management, and then we'll also have a series of breaking changes for 15.0 that will need to be addressed for that milestone. But I wanted to call out that Katie and I are also in an effort to get ahead, are doing some user research, thinking about, well, what are we going to work on in the latter half of the year? So on that front, Katie's been working on dependency proxy UI research, which she's wrapping up and synthesizing now. We're also interested in the settings configurations for the stage. So how are settings trickle down from group to subgroup to project, and where do they live on the page? That's something that we have an idea for how to solve, but we'll need to like put together some more thoughts on that. And I'm also doing some generative research on dependency signing and attestation, which has come up a lot recently, especially in the light of some of the Log4j incidents that came up last month. So just starting to talk to people about that. Any questions about the upcoming research? So the risk of that focus is that there are bugs that we just will not be able to address in a timely manner. I'm particularly worried about NPM and Maven, since those are the most used formats. But we have to stay strong because these projects need to get done on time. So I'm just trying to set clear expectations in the issues that we will not be able to get to those, and that our focus is on the aforementioned projects. So, and I linked to an example NPM bug that I saw one of our favorite customers is experiencing. And finally, what was that finally? Well, next, I presented at the CAB, which is the customer. David, were you going to ask something? Sorry. Okay, no. I presented at the CAB last week, which is the GitLab Customer Advisory Board. It's a collection of, I think, probably around 30 of our sort of VIP customers that get together. And the idea is more for them to talk through how they're solving challenges and what their use cases are versus us presenting. So I had a presentation that was basically how can you get more value out of GitLab package, and we had 5 different customers attend, and it was really interesting. All 5 of the customers were mentioned that they're currently on Artifactory, but that they are planning on and are interested in migrating off of Artifactory and moving to GitLab. They all talked about their motivations, and they all matched each other. So that the first was licensing costs. They also mentioned just reduced maintenance and overhead for admin. And this was a new one that I haven't heard as much, but developer experience. So that was kind of cool to hear of people that are using GitLab and saying that, oh, it's a much better user experience GitLab is than Artifactory. So they want to make their developers' lives easier. And they all mentioned that they have sort of executive buy-in and backing for this, although they did have concerns about the migration. We kind of talked about what their concerns were there, and what each customer brought up is that it will just take time. People brought up their Jenkins and GitHub migrations, saying that it's been 2 years on GitLab and they're still only 70% of the way through those migrations. So they expect things to take time because they have thousands of developers, and it's kind of hard to get everyone moving in one direction, but that it does help to have executive buy-in. That's when I asked, I said, well, what would it take for you to have executive buy-in? And they said, we already have it because of the cost and reasoning. So then we talked about what features would be missing for them to move over, and they all brought up proxying and caching of external repositories, which is great, aligns with our roadmap. The distinction that I would make is for some that meant virtual registries, like for the bigger customers, they were saying, well, we pull from, it kind of always goes the same way. They're like, we pull from 10 different sources. Well, actually, it might be more like 30. Actually, it might be more like 40. And so, but for some of the customers, it actually more meant just pulling, proxying and caching from the public registries or repositories. So that's a nice iteration that we could take for some of the mid-sized customers. We have a plan for that for NPM and Maven. We have issues of open and everything. And then some missing formats that were identified, which is great because it also matches our roadmap. RPM, Debian, and Ruby gems came up for everybody. Puppet came up for one customer, although they seem slightly ashamed about it as well, just because it's an older format. And I think Puppet actually would go more through the configure group and the infrastructure as code. So I think they would work on that more than us. But so yeah, it felt nice to kind of have that roadmap validation. And finally, there was a lot of interest in security and compliance features. So a lot of people asking about the dependency firewall and how they can control which dependencies are downloaded. They want visibility into how packages are being used by projects and by people. And they want to be, they just want more control over what gets downloaded into their ecosystem. I think Log4j is on everyone's mind. And as part of that, it was also brought up about dependency signing was another thing that came up. So that's also motivating my research desires. Any questions on that? Cool. Yeah, it was a fun experience, and hearing customers talk through their own use cases was really interesting. I could see if people are interested, the next cab, they're kind of fun to attend because you get to hear, like, we heard a major customer, I won't say customer name, a major customer talking through why they purchased GitLab and how they're using it and how they're not using it yet. So it was quite interesting.
I'm sorry, Tim, I'm not sure if you mentioned before, but how often does this happen? Is it ad hoc or is it something regularly?
It's monthly, yeah. This was my first time presenting at it, though. I usually attend them, but there's been motivation from the customers on the advisory board to hear more about package. So this was my first time actually presenting there. And finally, OKRs for Q1 will be finalized this week. We had an ops section review last week. We added a draft of the OKRs. I think they still need to be refined and OKR-ified, like the right language. And then also there's some that I think should be cut just based on capacity. So I'll ping you all in the issue once I have a second draft complete, which I expect to be today or tomorrow. And on that note, I guess it will also be time to close out the Q4 OKRs shortly. So if I have any questions about that, I'll add them to Slack.
I'm just going to link the document because I was just in a call discussing the sub-department OKR planning. So I'll just link it here as well.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you. And should I add any of those to ours, or will those kind of roll up under the quality department?
We usually do it separately,
okay.
But then later we can just talk about.
Okay, cool. That's all I had for today. Anyone else have any other topics they'd like to bring up? If not, we could give you back some extra time. Okay. Thanks, everyone. I'll talk to you later. Have a nice day.